Alex Jones is the Oprah Winfrey of alt media.
That's a very interesting perspective. Elaborate.
I mean, if you ever go into a grocery store and you see the Oprah Winfrey magazine, it's just her face on the cover every single time, no matter what.
Right.
Always. That's the O magazine is Oprah Winfrey's face. And I see Alex Jones as being that kind of like, look at me, I'm front and center. We gotta do something about the New World Order. Buy gold, buy guns, GMOs. You know, so he's kind of the Oprah Winfrey of that. You know, Oprah's a little bit more staid, relaxed than Alex Jones. There'll be advertisements that don't feature Alex Jones. There'll be stories that'll have a picture of the author of the story. But the front and center part of it, it's Oprah Winfrey magazine. It's InfoWars.
And you're not suggesting that maybe at InfoWars that they might be citing themselves as a source.
They cite themselves as their own sources. But it's also, you know, it's kind of it's a cult of personality where people identify with Alex Jones as their cult leader.
But don't you understand? He's number one. He's number one.
Yeah,
he's our man. If he can't do it, no one can. Don't you understand? We have to have an alpha male in every group.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, why do you think?
Bulldog,
why do you think that just because there's truth involved in this that we can be all independent? Like we may have independent ideas, but we have to have a leader. He has a spear. Don't you understand? He has a spear in the info war. He is the tip of the spear.
Well,
and he's a very angry man, and he shouts.
Socrates believed that the way you arrive at truth is to continue to ask questions. And I think the Alex Jones method, as opposed to the Socratic method, the Jones method, is to just make accusations until enough people believe that it's true, and then that's how you find truth, is by just manufacturing it. And that's a lot more convenient than the Socratic method.
I don't know if we should be talking about, Alex Jones, if he sees this video at some point, that dude might go 1776 on you. You want to be 1776? What, nigga, what? What, nigga, 1776, nigga?
I mean, it's hypocritical in the sense that he's on YouTube, he's on popular media, the whole thing is owned by the people that he's saying we should be opposed to, but he won't enter the argument on the first floor. He enters it on the second floor. He's like, okay, well, we need to oppose these people. Hey, I know how we can do it. Let's use their tools. They built all this web infrastructure. I know, let's fight them by using their tools. And you're a tool inside their tool belt when you're using their tools to fight them. You're not fighting them then, you're just becoming part of their system of control. And it's very difficult to break out of that system of control. I'm not pretending it's an easy thing. But Alex Jones is a sensationalist, and that does get hits. It sells advertising, so it should be infotainment wars. And he's just competing with Fox and CNN and CNBC for the more rabid fans. The fans who aren't satisfied by what Fox News presents or by what CNBC presents. They need deeper conspiracies. And I'm not saying that he's incorrect in all of his conspiracy theories. I'm not saying that he's totally incorrect or farcical. I'm just saying that the way he chooses to market himself is successful exactly because he's whipping people into a frenzy. And people want that. They want to feel that. They go to church. Some people go to church to feel that kind of crazy energy.
Aren't you being a little bit pessimistic? Because of Alex Jones, there's a lot of people out there that can just tune into Alex Jones and listen to Infowars.com. They don't have to start their own radio show, and they don't need to listen to other people in the alternative media for a different perspective. Because of Alex Jones, it's all centralized and in one place. You just click and listen. Is there something wrong with that? I mean, shouldn't people just let one person do the fight for us while they go shopping and enjoy life and and check their text messages about and deal with their lives?
It's the lazy way out. It's living vicariously, revolution vicariously. I'm going to have the sensations of revolt without the mess of having to actually get off my couch. I'm going to feel like I'm accomplishing something without actually having to move a muscle. that's where we have become A, desensitized to horror, and B, incapable of understanding what real revolution, or not even revolution necessarily, but just real participation looks like. We don't participate anymore. We live vicariously through other people's participation. It's actually like a Hollywood movie version. It's not even real. It's just this manufactured illusion of participation, of actually like, we're challenging, we're standing up to the New World Order, we're challenging the New World Order by using their tools and by being part of their system. And you know what? The ad revenue on YouTube is driven by Alex Jones click-throughs. So the whole thing, everybody's profiting off of the fervor that non-revolutionaries are presenting into the system, because they're like, yeah, we gotta stand up, we gotta stop these things, we gotta say no to chemtrails, we gotta say no to mass murder and GMO, and it's like, you're not saying no to any of those things. You're driving to protests, you're having things printed at Kinko's, you're using the modern systems that have been placed here to control us. We're using those. Facebook to organize resistance? Are you kidding me?
YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube, man. The revolution is going to be televised. Well, not, yeah, but no. It's just going to be consolidated. The revolution is just going to be manufactured, actually, and infiltrated and co-opted. And that's, Alex Jones is a big part of that. Now there's some people who are like, yeah, he's big for 9/11 truth. He's lighting that little candle every day. You know, he's helping promote that we need to investigate, and we should investigate. We should know more about our own history, right? Before it becomes too difficult for us as archaeologists of history to figure out what's actually happened. Well, that requires a rational dialogue, and injecting this kind of vitriol and mania isn't leading people to a logical discussion. So whenever you want to revolt or whenever you want to push back, it's really easy to marginalize everyone by being like, oh yeah, well, you know, you're probably with Alex Jones, right? You're one of those InfoWars people. You're one of these maniacs who's completely decoupled from reality. And that's in place to marginalize us. I mean, if you really want to have an impact, they just associate you. And it's the same thing you see with like marijuana decriminalization, to kind of go off on a tangent here, but it's always portrayed as people with dreadlocks who haven't washed in 6 months. And it's not the hedge fund managers or the real serious people who are billionaires who are like, oh, it's time to legalize pot. They're still portraying it like it's these crazy, dirty hippies who are going to steal your children's virginity and all these other things. And that's just about skewing it so that no one takes it seriously. And Alex Jones is one of those clowns that enables the control structure to say, oh, you're with the clowns. You're just one of those, you're with the clowns. And then you have the 70% of the sheeple who are like, oh, okay, well, that Alex Jones guy's completely unhinged because the mainstream media has told us this. And then you look at some of the video clips where he's completely flipping out. And yeah, okay, so there is a time for emotion, definitely. There is a time for feeling passionate, but you can't become a clown and help people move into truth. You can't move people to truth through clowning around.
Are you planning to become a affiliate marketer?
Oh yeah, I'm a big advocate.
Are you thinking about becoming a part of the InfoWars team? Because I have heard that you can now earn money at home, MLM, by hooking up with the InfoWars team. You can be a part of the team. You can get the Kool-Aid, and you can pitch the Kool-Aid. It's tangy tangerine. You might want to check it out.
We're thinking of launching info drones, our InfoWar drones, to go out there and monitor what's happening with the New World Order. They're gonna be painted like masks of Alex Jones flying around, and
like instead of V for Vendetta, we have the Alex
Jones masks.
The 1,000 mask march.
The 1,000 mask march.
And instead of having real megaphones, because only Alex Jones can have a megaphone, they can have paper megaphones.
Yes, and tin foil hats they're part of the outfit. Your rank in the organization, in the cult, is based on the color of tin that your tinfoil hat is made of. So if you've got the gold tinfoil hat, then you're like next to the platinum level. We're just mimicking what the healthcare system's doing now. So you're either bronze level, silver level, gold level, or platinum level conspiracy theorist ideologue. And I'm platinum level all the way. Platinum and diamonds, baby. Blood diamonds, I want more of them. I'm all about it. I'm an Alex Jones-ite. But I like Alex Jones for entertainment. I mean, I think he's really entertaining, but I don't necessarily think that he's the best face to put on a serious discussion about 9/11 truth or about why we invaded Iraq. I don't know that he's the best guy. Like, if we were going to have a logical, rational debate, I think Noam Chomsky would probably be more in the mold of what I'm looking for in terms of a person to promote the search for truth than Alex Jones. Alex Jones is like the professional wrestler, which means that it's not real wrestling, it's a fucking show. And then you've got somebody who really wants to wrestle with facts, who really wants to like challenge people to think seriously about the linear associations over time. And that's difficult. That's not as easy as just turning into this kind of vitriol-driven maniac that Alex Jones is capable of becoming. And that's...
I agree with much of what you said, with the exception of the Noam Chomsky aspect of 9/11, who does not recognize the idea of a premeditative...
Yeah, I don't mean to say that it is...
You mean in terms of demeanor.
The demeanor
because I see that Chomsky, even though I don't agree with his view of 9/11, and Alex Jones has brought to light many great truths about 9/11, a great film, 9/11 Road to Tyranny, and that was, again, April of 2002, I think, when that was launched, and that's what I saw at that time. Cable access at 2 o'clock in the morning, and so there was a big inspiration for me to move in this direction of reporting on 9/11 stuff, starting my own Access TV show and others. But Noam Chomsky, because of the way that he relates to other people, the way he speaks, he has a very large audience. He has a very large audience, and I kind of give him kind of crap for not addressing the real 9/11 truth, but you're right in that respect.
At least he has the demeanor that I think a person should have if we're going to move a larger, more broad audience into thinking seriously about what happened there. And I mean, it all...
And Western imperialism and yes, whatnot.
Right, and he nails it on some of the Western imperialist agendas. I mean, I think he's got really cogent... The reason I think he strays from 9/11 discussions is because, again, they're used to marginalize people. You can be easily marginalized if you say something like, well, you know, I'm not entirely sure it wasn't an inside job. What happened at Building 7? What happened at Building 7? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about free fall. Let's talk about physics, okay? Let's talk about physics. Because physics isn't something that's going to be suspended because...
Well, that's why we have great people like Richard Gage and David Ray Griffin. Yes. My thing with Alex Jones, I don't know how much of this I'm going to leave in the video. It's the way that he views other people as competition, and the slightest criticism will have someone blacklisted. And some people spend their whole lives trying to reach him or have acknowledgement. It's natural because through there is a gateway to reaching a lot more people, because he has become the mainstream in alternative media. But in a way, just mainstream media by itself, he is mainstream, be it seen as alternative or otherwise.
Yeah, that's right.
And so...
That's why I call him the Oprah Winfrey of alt media, because he's actually mainstreamed. He's been mainstreamed, but he's been used as a tool by the mainstream media to marginalize all of those discussion threads. It's like, who's the most convenient clown that we can pick out that ultimately, if you're identified with him, any attempt that you have to run for public office, any attempt that you have to be a public figure is going to be corroded by your association with Alex Jones and InfoWars.
That's why they believe that the Piers Morgan interview was deliberately staged.
Exactly. His freak out on that show was perfect if you want to make sure that the people who are aligned with Alex Jones are always going to be pushed to the sidelines by the bulk of humanity.
And it's not fair. It is not fair to independent thinkers around the world to be automatically associated with Alex Jones. Whether they support Alex Jones or not, whatever camp they're in. It's very complex because, again, we recognize that he's brought to light certain truths, but in his dealings with his audience and other talk show hosts, he has shown himself to be a spiteful sociopath that truly, openly resents other voices in the quote-unquote movement. He truly shows full-on hatred and distrust of anyone outside of his inner circle. And this is documented by people that have left his inner circle. It is documented by those that have left his operation. But there are many people that used to work for Alex Jones that are not allowed to speak because they signed a confidentiality agreement.
I mean, I would love to see like a side-by-side picture of Kim Jong-un and Alex Jones, the leader of North Korea.
I would like to see Napoleon, the real Napoleon, and Alex Jones.
Those three guys are very similar in a lot of respects. They're paranoid. They're looking for treachery at every turn. They think people are out to get them. And they create wedges between themselves. So if you can get your followers to totally hate something external from you, you can control them, and it keeps them from thinking about the atrocities that you yourself are committing as a leader. It's like Machiavellian principles here.
Alex Jones has his own list of perceived enemies. He talks about an enemies list with Obama. Alex Jones has his own enemies list of those in the alternative media. But those that he has allowed close to InfoWars over the last decade are those that have shown themselves to be dedicated promoters solely of Alex Jones material, DVDs, and other merchandise.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to Glenn Beck,
which
or you
isn't
listen
fair.
to Rush Limbaugh, and you know how they do the product placement.
Right.
You know, they're like, oh, hey, are you worried about your email being read by the NSA? Check out AlexJonesEmail.com. You can be such and such at Alex Jones.
Checkpoint.
Yeah, I know, it is. Really
We're on a toll road?
Yeah, it's all good though. So that's, it's like, then people are like, well, I got my Alex Jones email so the NSA can't hear me. I mean, this is stuff I don't know that Alex Jones has something like that, or if he has InfoWars emails that he
I didn't sign up for his newsletter, but because at some point they already had my email, I do receive the magazine subscription. It's just there's also a lot of people that focus on not liking Alex Jones, but they watch him anyway. You know, I just try to stay away from the website. I unsubscribed from the YouTube channel approximately about a month ago. I also unsubscribed from Mark Dice because he bullies a lot of people. And what we're seeing a whole market for people that act like they're alpha males. It's attractive to. So this is actually upsetting some people in the audience simply because they're being critical. So we're actually dealing with fascism in the alternative media. We're dealing with fascist thinking forms, thinking processes.
Yeah, it's and that's where it comes down to. It's like, okay, if you don't want your subscribers, people who subscribe to your philosophy, to become too introspective, you just whip them into a frenzy. And the way you do that is say, look, the time for rational dialogue is over. Now we have to be emotional. Now we have to feel rage. And we have to just use that rage, translate that rage into action. Get your boots on the ground. And then it's like, okay, well, don't think about the strategy. And that's the thing. There are generals who are planning large-scale movements, and then there are the foot soldiers who can't see more than 5 feet in front of them, and they're being led to the slaughter. And that's where it's dangerous to allow any media. Originally, the original intent of media was to be a large, diverse platform for ideas. And it wasn't supposed to be that all the radio stations are owned by 3 companies and all the newspapers are owned by 5 companies. When that happens, we lose the ability to have a healthy dialogue, and it all becomes based on how do we sell more futons? Oh, we've got all these advertisers that we have to appease. And then it becomes, well, how do you appease the advertisers? You have to get people whipped into a frenzy.
Yeah,
oh man,
Boom. You got to pay the bills.
Yeah, you got to pay the bills.
And people respond to that. People respond to that type of programming.
Yes.
And through their money,
So if we were to have like a really deep, thought-provoking program that was like, okay, serious news, all we do is deal with facts, then nobody would watch it because they can flip over to Alex Jones,
also,
they can flip over to Rush Limbaugh, and they can hear this kind of like rage machine, and then they can get that emotional feeling like in a church. Like it hits the God spot. It's a physical reaction.
In addition to that type of reporting, fear-mongering reporting, having control over the guests, having exclusives. You do exclusives with us. You don't go on competing shows or shows that are seen on competing. So you give someone a spotlight, but you have a contract signed or you have some sort of agreement, verbal or otherwise.
You chain them to your spotlight, yeah. And it's like, okay, well, we're only going to...
Coast to Coast is known to have done that.
Yeah. Well, so there's this kind of self-interest in all of these things. And the people who are involved in it, I think sometimes or a lot of times they get involved because they're deeply moved by something and they want to make a difference. And then somebody approaches them and says, hey, you know, like I sell gold, or hey, I'm a seller of guns, or whatever it is, and I want to put some advertising on your show, but I don't want you to challenge certain positions. I don't want you to talk about certain subjects. And it's like, okay, sure, no problem. Because there's money now. And in the end, money is a tremendous influence over everything almost. I mean, I can't think of anything that can't be influenced by money. And I think Alex Jones is susceptible to that too. And then you have to ask yourself as an entertainer, as a performer, what do the people in the audience want to see? And it turns out like you can do focus groups and testing. And it's like, well, hey, Alex, Mr. Jones, it turns out that the people really like it when you flip out. You don't have to be rational. You don't have to talk about things from a fact basis. Just flip out. Go crazy. Go crazy on Piers Morgan. Talk about having a violent armed revolution. Okay. Man, that thing gets so many hits. We just sold so much Tide. We just had all these product placement offers. Keep the train going, man. And I think that that's where all of it is now. I think almost all of it's there. And the thing is that if you're on the outside of it and you become successful, you're going to be approached by people who say, hey, guess what? We really like what you're doing, and we want to pay you some money to do it our way. My conclusion is that if we're going to survive as a species and not be dominated by a small group of reptilian overlords, that we have to get so that we work cooperatively, even with people that we don't agree with. We have to learn to cooperate, and we can't have any individual be over-dominant, because that system is the one that's taking us down. When we celebrate the lone hero, this Superman type individual, we're just feeding into the whole Illuminati system of control where we revere and worship an individual rather than what they stand for. We revere and worship Alex Jones rather than revere and worship the quest for truth. It is the quest for truth that matters. And like Shark's Teeth, individuals are supposed to rotate in and fight that battle, and they're constantly going to be there, and they're constantly going to be searching, and we have to fuse that information together. And we have to work as a team without some lone individual who's out there with a flag leading the way by themselves. And that's what Alex Jones portrays. He's this guy who's like, oh man, I'm doing it for all of you. That's exactly the problem. That is exactly the problem. And until we solve that problem with Americans glomming on to these artificial leaders, until we solve that problem, we are doomed. We are going to be completely controlled by these cults of personality. And we have to learn to think for ourselves. And I don't know if it's going to happen. I think we're so indoctrinated now that people just naturally want these superheroes. They don't want to have to fight a battle. They want to see one guy or one girl go out there and fight the battle for all of us. And that's not how it works. V for Vendetta is a perfect example of that. I mean, yeah, the masks are great. They're made by Warner Brothers and all that. But it's this idea of some superhero who's going to solve all our problems. And that is undermining our ability to have a participatory democracy where we all have to share responsibility equally. We have to share the responsibility. And Alex Joneses of the world are destroying the fabric of that. And they perpetuate the destruction of the fabric of our ability to work together. How are we going to fix it? I don't know. I'm afraid we're doomed. I'm hoping that there's a way that we will learn how to fuse our talents together. I guess if anything, it's a message to Alex Jones to say, hey, look, whether you agree, maybe you disagree with this completely, but we need to promote a diverse form of leadership. There has to be a healthy measure of debate. It can't reduce itself to emotional tirades. We need to teach people people how to work cooperatively without leaders. And that's the thing. Alex Jones is a leader. He's a natural leader, but he's not teaching people how to work cooperatively. He's teaching them to fear every kind of ghost around the corner. He's teaching them that there's this vast conspiracy to control them. There is a vast conspiracy here. It is designed to control us, but it uses these archetypes of the Lone Ranger to control us. The most damaging thing to what we're attempting to do with reinventing the American culture and trying to help the poor and impoverished and controlled people of this country. In order to help them, we have to teach them to be leaders on their own, how everybody's a leader, and how working together we're part of a group, and we can be successful only as a group, and we're not doing that. And Alex Jones isn't helping with that at all. He's teaching us to worship Alex Jones, just like Oprah Winfrey is the focus of her own magazine.
So as we conclude here, if he ever does see this, you're suggesting, if I'm hearing you correctly, that instead of just saying so on the air, for real, Alex Jones needs to do some soul searching.
Yeah, some soul searching. He needs to quit being such a Donald Trump and start being more of a leader of free people. And when you do that, you embrace people and you embrace the differences and you talk to them about their differences. You don't yell them down. You don't try to crush them or make them feel stupid. Who knows why they've been led to the conclusions they've been led to, but only through a rational dialogue and debate are we actually going to be able to help these people find reality that they can agree with and believe in.